Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Isabel Palacios and in today's video we're gonna talk boundaries. Now, I don't know why, I don't think I have ever made a video on my channel about boundaries, and I don't know why, because boundaries honestly helped me glow up and just change my life, change the way I felt about myself and just how I interact with people, change my relationships so much, and setting boundaries has empowered me in ways like never before. Honestly, when you set proper boundaries in your life, it is the ultimate glow up. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience and the boundaries that I have set in my own life and with my business, with my relationships, and so on and so forth. But first, let's talk a little bit about what boundaries are. So boundaries are the rules, principles, or standards by which you set, that you decide to set, of what you will or will not allow in your life. So who should set boundaries? Ideally, everyone should set boundaries. But especially if you are an empath, a highly sensitive person, or you struggle with codependency. And if you don't know what codependency is, just to give you an analogy or an example of what codependency is, it's basically sweeping another person's side of the street when you haven't swept your own. Basically worrying about somebody else, doing things for somebody else, and looking after somebody else or their life before looking after yourself first. So if you struggle with people pleasing, if you struggle with saying no to somebody or to something without feeling guilt or shame, or you basically feel like a doormat in your relationships, you feel drained in certain areas of your life, whether that's your business or that's at work or that's in your relationships, or you've been in a manipulative relationship with somebody who's gaslit you or made you feel bad about caring for yourself or loving yourself. Usually these dynamics happen when we're in toxic relationships with people we love, but with people who don't respect us or love us back. So boundaries, there are many types of boundaries that you can set. There are physical boundaries that you can set, meaning pertaining to your privacy, your space, your physical body. There are material boundaries, meaning your clothes, the things that you own, your car, lending things to people, allowing what people can use if people are using your things. There are mental boundaries, meaning opinions or thoughts, and how you allow them to affect you or if they affect you deeply. There are emotional boundaries, which are huge, which means taking the blame for other people's emotions or putting the blame of your emotions and how you feel onto somebody else. So there are all types of boundaries within our lives. And if you need to decide on what boundaries to set, I think a really good rule of thumb is just to get a sheet of paper and literally write down in that journal or whatever you're writing down with all the areas of your life where you feel overextended, where you feel drained, where you feel like you're not being heard, where you feel like you're being dismissed, or you just feel moody or apprehensive when thinking about this certain thing or this person. The main thing I feel like we struggle setting boundaries with is with people in our relationships, and that is probably one of the hardest things because we often feel guilt and shame about setting boundaries with people. So let me give you an example of where boundaries should be set. Before I go on any further, I want to give a shout out to Terry Cole. I found her on YouTube probably about a couple years ago, and she really helped me to figure out where I needed to set boundaries, to feel okay about setting boundaries, being a boundary boss, and also healing from codependency. So I will link her channel down below. She's also on Instagram. And I believe she has a lot of courses and things like that for people who do struggle with codependency. And I realized that I had codependency when I was putting other people's needs and emotions and wants before my own. And I felt guilty for putting myself first. So it's not selfish to have boundaries. It is good for your mental health. It is good for you, and it gives you a confidence like never before. So an example of place where you might need to set boundaries is with your relationships, with your friendships. Now, let's have an example. Let's say you have a friend who every month asks you for money. They're like, hey, I need help paying this, I need help paying that. They see you're doing well, or you're well off, or you're doing better than them, so You're like, oh yeah, that person has money, so I'm just gonna ask them every time I don't have money. And so you give and give and give because you feel bad about saying no, you feel bad for the person, you feel bad that they don't have enough money, but then over time, it just becomes a cycle that they're just expecting you to give them money. They don't even say thank you anymore, or that you're noticing that it's hitting your pocketbook a little bit, giving them money every month. So you finally decide to put your foot down. Now, there are usually two ways that people respond to our boundaries. You go and you tell them and you say, hey, listen, I can't give you money this month. I'm so sorry. Don't even have to say sorry. You just say, I can't afford to give you $200, $500 this month. And usually people react one of two ways. They can say, oh yeah, well, you're a jerk and you're a terrible friend and how dare you? How can you be so rude? And I know this sounds crazy, but there are actually people who react this way when you say no to them. So they react and they say, you're crazy, you're mean. And then there can be other people who say, yeah, I'm so sorry. Listen, I've been going through a hard time, but this month I'm really gonna try and I appreciate all your help. Totally understand. Your help has been really great thus far and I appreciate you. Now, those are two people. The first person is a person that you should not have any guilt or shame about kicking out of your life, about creating a physical boundary with that person. Why? Because a person who does not respect your boundaries is not a person who respects you. The person who is simply using you or manipulating you or you're in a toxic relationship with is that person who's going to laugh, mock, or be upset at you for setting boundaries. Now, how do you know a good person is a person who does respect your boundaries, who understands why you set your boundaries, who doesn't take them personally and instead says, you know what, you're right. Thank you for your help. I appreciate you and I respect your boundary. So that is number one. You know, the biggest red flag in a relationship with a person is when they don't respect your boundaries. When you've asked them to do something or not do something and they respect it and they honor it and they uphold it, that's a person for you. The person who mocks the boundary, the person who makes fun of the boundary, the person who constantly crosses the boundary, may say, sorry, I'm sorry, but then continues to do it. Big, big, big red flag. That person is not meant to be in your life and you're better off cutting that person out of your life. So that is a boundary that happens within relationships. Now, what is a boundary that is emotional? And I think this is one that's a little bit harder for people because especially as we're healing and we're being triggered by things and people, we need to decide what is our responsibility and what isn't. Now, this is a really big thing with codependency. If you've been in a toxic situation or maybe you grew up in a toxic household where your parents would always put the blame on you. They say, how could you do this to me? How could you do this when you just decided to go out with friends or you did something for yourself or you went against their wishes and they told you, why would you do this? You disappoint me, blah, blah. Thus putting their emotion onto you and putting the blame onto you. This is the thing. This can be hard for a lot of people to just swallow, is the fact that your emotions are your responsibility. And when I say this, I'm not saying that, oh, if somebody does something to you that hurts you, that's your fault. No, I'm not blaming you at all. What I'm saying is how you respond to those emotions and how you take responsibility for them is on you. And so knowing that and taking responsibility for your own emotions helps you set a boundary where if anyone wants to say, oh, because you did this, now I'm hurt, or this and that, like let's say you want to break up with somebody and you realize it's for the best of both of y'all, but that person doesn't accept the breakup, so they're here blaming you for feeling sad or suicidal and all these things. That's where you got to set a boundary. And in those situations, it's so hard setting boundaries with people, especially if you're an empath, especially if you're a person that feels like you have to fix everything and be there for everyone, which a lot of us women, we deal with. A lot of us women feel like we have to drain and overextend ourselves to be there for other people before we can be there for ourselves. But that's where you draw the line. You tell that person, and this is big, having conversations about your boundaries. You're setting your boundary, you realize this is not my responsibility to be your emotional real estate agent for your emotions. I'm sorry, I'm cutting this off right here. After you have these conversations with people and they still don't respect these boundaries and they're still pushing your buttons and they're still calling you and texting you and blaming you and talking bad about you to others, that's where you have permission to set a physical boundary and block that person or no longer have them in your life. This is your life. You should not feel guilty for setting parameters around yourself and your spirit and your energy. This is your life, not theirs. You're the one who's going to have to live with feeling drained. You're the one who's going to have to live with having mood swings. You're the one who's going to have to deal with all this stuff on your back. And at some point you have to say, no, I do not subscribe to this. I am not taking this on as my own. This is not my responsibility. And you're not avoiding it. You're simply stating, once you've crossed this boundary and this barrier, you no longer respect me and I have the right to exit this relationship. In any kind of relationship, whether that's friends, whether that's family, which is really difficult for people to deal with, or romantic relationships with your partner or your exes. So in my own experience, I had to set a lot of boundaries with my relationships, with family, with friends, around certain things. That could be, I'm not gonna be available all the time to answer your text right away. I'm not going to answer on the first call, and I'm also not going to answer if you're calling me incessantly. If I don't pick up in that moment, that means that I either can't pick up right then and there, or I choose not to. I choose not to text right now. And there have been people in my life who, if I don't answer within the first 5 minutes, they text again and they text again, or they call again and they call again. And I've had to, even though I love that person, I know they love me, I've had to set boundaries. And I knew that they were a good person in my life because they respected those boundaries. And I had to have that tough conversation. I had to say no. And it's uncomfortable at first. Their feelings are probably gonna get hurt, but that's okay. Again, it's not my responsibility. My feelings matter too. How I feel matters too. And anytime you're having difficulty setting a boundary, you have to remind yourself of that. And you have to repeat that mantra. Your feelings matter. The way you feel matters. Your emotions matter, and your life matters. Another place where I had to set boundaries was with social media. So you guys know I took a step back from YouTube for a few months last year because I was feeling so drained. I would answer almost every comment. I would read all the comments. I would answer DMs all the time. I would always be open and available and overextend myself when it came to YouTube and social media. A big thing that I had to do was set boundaries, where it's something that's really hard, and a lot of content creators out there can probably empathize, is when you get a negative comment and somebody says something to you that you know is untrue, or says something about you that you know is untrue. Do you stand up for yourself and respond, or do you let it go? And that's something I always had to pray about, was, do I respond to these things? Do I give them my energy? And something that God told me was to take a step back and not be afraid of setting boundaries. So anytime somebody would say really nasty, which people are surprised when I say this, people leave really nasty comments, just downright mean. And it's usually a person with no profile picture, and it's like a fake account. So what did I do? I stopped feeling bad about blocking. I stopped feeling bad about deleting comments. I stopped feeling bad about ignoring. And I set that boundary that unless I felt like in that moment, oh, unless it's a question somebody asks, hey, what do you think of this or this and that? I'll answer those questions. I'll answer people who are genuine, and I know that their questions or their comments come from their heart. I feel that they come from their heart, because at the end of the day, we don't know people's intentions. But I also said, okay, when negativity comes along, or just a long rambling message, people throwing accusations at you, or whatever it could be. I mean, you see all types of things on the internet. Another big thing is people would write me DMs and pages of DMs talking about their problems when I'm going through my own stuff. And I no longer felt that I could do that. It was humanly impossible for me to answer these long DMs with a thoughtful answer and also have emotional real estate for myself, because I have my own needs, I have my own struggle, I have my own clients. As many of you guys know, I'm a certified life and business coach. So I deal with people on a personal level every single day. And so knowing this, I gave myself permission to set boundaries with social media, to not always scroll through comments. I used to read all the comments. Now I can't anymore, unfortunately. But I don't feel bad about it, because it makes my relationship with social media so much healthier. And that could be something you can do too. Setting boundaries with social media and how your phone usage will help you tremendously. A big thing that has helped me is treating my phone like a landline. I leave it in my in my office or I leave it in my room with the ringer on, and if I hear it, I go answer. If I hear a text message, I'll go answer. But sometimes I'll leave the house without it, and I used to feel scared and have all these thoughts, think, what if something happens to me and I don't have my phone? I thought, relax, I'm just going to the store, I'm just gonna do this, I'm just gonna do that. I don't have to document everything, I don't have to take pictures of everything or who I'm with and all this stuff. I don't have to share all this stuff on social media, because I felt like my private life and my social media life, my internet life, were meshing together. There was a time where I literally felt guilty for having fun, because I was like, I should be filming right now. I should be doing something for work right now. I should be working on my business right now. And I realized then and there that I was having all this guilt. I no longer felt like social media was fun for me, that YouTube was fun for me. So there I set strict boundaries. I have boundaries about who I share, what I share about my life. You guys see, I don't have all my friends and my relationships out on social media. I'm very private. And that's for a reason, because I realized that once you cross that boundary and you mix everything together, you're basically a free-for-all. And I see that happen to a lot of, my friends who are in the digital space, who are content creators, who are entrepreneurs. They start showing a lot of their life and they're getting criticism, or their family members who are private citizens are getting hate and vitriol and things like that. And that's something I don't want to do. So setting boundaries with social media has been incredible thing for me, has helped me have more energy, has helped me feel more confident in what I put out. And I also set boundaries on the content I consume. So I don't watch a bunch of horror movies. I used to love watching horror movies. I don't watch them anymore. I actually stopped probably 2 or 3 years ago with that. Also with YouTube videos, I don't watch a lot of YouTubers. People ask me, are there YouTubers that you watch? Who do you like? I like my friends, Lior, Aaron, Terry Cole's a great one. I love channels that add to my life and don't make me feel bad or aren't negative or just aren't what I want to see in my life. So do not feel bad about setting boundaries. They are essential. They are something that we should be taught from very young, such as don't touch me there. As a child, you're taught to tell people, don't touch me there. I'm not okay with that uncle kissing me. I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with that. And we should teach our children from very young to say what they're okay and what they're not okay with. This would help us out so much, especially for victims of abuse. A lot of people don't know that the abuse that they endured was wrong because they weren't taught boundaries from a young age. But it's okay. Even if you didn't know boundaries from a young age, now you know at whatever age you're listening to. And I highly recommend that you listen to people like Terry Cole. And if I find any more information on boundaries, I'll put it down below. The holistic psychologist is also somebody that talks a lot about boundaries. And I will link any Instagram profiles down below if I find them that talk about this in depth. But this is just skimming the surface. If you guys want me to talk more about boundaries and how I've enacted them in my life, please let me know. But the main thing right now is literally get out a journal, sheet of paper, and write down all the areas or relationships. Could be work, which work is a big one, like your boss emailing you at 10 p.m. at night and expecting you to respond. Maybe you should have a difficult conversation there. And a lot of times it's hard when it's a person who's an authority above you, but even then you have a right to make your feelings known about certain things, certain behaviors. A lot of times we bring work home with us. If you work, 9 to 5, you go to the office and you come home, turning off work as soon as you walk in the door of your house, or as soon as you turn off your computer if you're working from home, is going to help you a ton, and not feeling guilty about it. So get out your sheet of paper, write down all the boundaries you're gonna set, write down how you're going to enforce those boundaries, even write down the dates of the conversations, the difficult conversations you need to have. And you're gonna feel so liberated when you draw the line in the sand and you say, sorry, your emotions are no longer my responsibility to deal with. Either go to therapy or talk it out with somebody. I'll be here as a friend, as emotional support even, but I'm not going to take responsibility over your life anymore because I got my own to deal with. This is your life, your one life right here. You're living it, and setting boundaries, setting standards, setting these parameters around you are not, this is not selfish, this is important. This is deciding your worth, and it's showing yourself that you are worthy of the commitment of high and powerful boundaries, because what is a fortress or a castle without a boundary? It's just a free-for-all, right? So treat yourself as a temple, as a castle, as something that needs to be cherished and protected, and your confidence is gonna shoot up. You're gonna glow up in so many ways. You're gonna feel more empowered. You're going to feel like you can actually take up space in life and make your voice heard, and you can actually say no to the things and the people that do not serve you. You learn who your real friends are, you learn who your real family is, you learn who your partner is and whether that partner is good for you or not when you set boundaries. And you know, the people for you will love you and will respect your boundaries. All right, my angels, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't, and comment down below. Let me know, what boundaries are you setting in 2021? What are the areas of your life that you feel that you are drained and you're deciding to take a stand in? Comment that down below. I'd love to hear from you, and also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram. Links are always down below. I love you all so very much, and always remember this, my beautiful angels. No matter who you may be in this life, no matter what you may be going through, what your past was like, or what you're dealing with, always remember, your true beauty, your true worth, and your true power always come from within. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.